Elias Ward had lived alone in space for so long that silence felt normal to him. His small repair station floated near the edge of neutral territory, far from laws, governments, and memories. He fixed broken ships, old cargo haulers, and forgotten war vessels. He did not ask where they came from, and no one asked about his past. Elias liked it that way. Humans were no longer important in the galaxy. Other species had stronger fleets, smarter machines, and longer lives. Humans survived by being useful and quiet. Elias was very good at both. On that cycle, he was repairing a damaged airlock when his station's alarm sounded. A ship had docked without permission. That almost never happened. He reached for his tool and turned slowly. The being standing in the docking bay was not human. She was tall and slender, her skin pale blue with faint glowing patterns that moved like slow breathing. Her eyes were large, dark, and tired. She wore no armor, no weapon, only a long cloak torn at the edges. Elias had seen her species before in news feeds. Violins, powerful, cold, feared. She looked nothing like the images. "I am not here to harm you," she said softly. Her voice trembled as if each word cost her something. Elias did not lower his tool. "You docked without asking." "I did not have time to ask," she replied. "Please, I need help." He studied her carefully. Violins did not beg, they commanded, they conquered. Yet this one stood like a shadow about to disappear. "What kind of help?" Elias asked. She hesitated. Her glowing skin dimmed slightly, a sign of stress, he remembered. When she finally spoke, her voice was almost a whisper. "Can you help me have a child?" The words echoed in the metal room. Elias laughed once, sharp and short. It came out before he could stop it. "You came to the wrong station." She did not react with anger. She did not move at all. Her eyes filled with something Elias had not expected. "Fear. My people are dying," she said. "Not from war, not from sickness, we are fatting. Our children are fewer each cycle. Our science has failed us." Elias lowered his tool slowly. She stepped forward, careful, respectful. "Human biology adapts in ways ours cannot. Your species survives where logic says you should not. We studied this. We tested it." He felt cold. "So you came here because I'm human?" "Yes," she said honestly, "and because you are alone." That part hurt more than he expected. "My name is Salith," she continued. "I came without permission. If my council finds me, they will erase me, but extinction is worse than death." Elias turned away and stared at the station window. Stars drifted slowly past, uncaring and endless. He had lost his wife and child decades ago during a colony evacuation that never came. Since then, he had learned not to hope. "This isn't my problem," he said. Salith nodded. "I know." She turned to leave. Something inside Elias tightened. He remembered the last time someone had walked away from him, carrying hope he had refused to hold. He spoke before he could stop himself. "Explain." Salith stopped. She did not smile. She did not celebrate. She only turned back as if afraid this chance might vanish if she moved too fast. "There is a way," she said quietly. "No intimacy, no harm, a biological bridge. One night, that is all." Elias closed his eyes. He had no idea that this moment, this simple question, was the beginning of a story the galaxy would one day fear, respect, and never forget. And neither did she. The next cycle, Elias heard the familiar hum of a ship approaching. His station's sensors flagged an incoming craft with damaged shields. He did not expect visitors, especially not Violins, but something inside him made him prepare anyway. When the airlock opened, Salith stumbled in, her pale blue skin darker in places, patterns flickering like dying flames. She had been attacked, likely by her own people. Elias rushed to her side, catching her before she fell. His hands were steady, though his heart thumped wildly. He cleaned the cuts on her arms, patched her torn cloak, and wrapped her in a thermal blanket. I survived, she whispered. Her voice was quiet, tired, and full of relief. But I can't go back. They will erase me if I fail. Elias looked at her. He had survived violence, starvation, and betrayal in the colonies, but fear like this, fear for one's very existence, was something he understood. He had lost family to the cold decisions of humans in power. He knew the sharp edge of bureaucracy, the emptiness of being expendable. "You're not safe here either," he said softly, "if they find me helping you." Salith shook her head. "I don't care about the consequences for me. I care about what must exist tomorrow. I am asking for life, and I know the risk is great." Her honesty, her courage, it pressed on him like weight he could not lift. Elias had always been careful, calculating, but now the universe had handed him a choice he could not ignore. She explained the process. It was not like anything humans had ever tried. It was a biological fusion, human adaptability guiding the growth of a Virelian child. No intimacy, no pleasure, just survival. The process would take one night. One single night, and the child would begin its existence. Elias listened quietly, absorbing every detail. The idea sounded insane, impossible, but the desperation in her eyes made it feel urgent, necessary. He realized that he was staring at the future of an entire species in her fragile form. He thought about Earth, about the colonies he had seen collapse, about the children who had been lost to decisions made by those who never cared. He thought about loneliness and duty, and how sometimes one had to act despite fear. Finally he said, "I'll do it." Salith's relief was palpable. She did not smile. Smiling would have been too human, too fragile. But her glowing patterns brightened just slightly, like a candle resisting the wind. Elias led her to the chamber. The room was sterile, quiet, humming with energy as if it knew the importance of what was about to happen. He had patched countless machines, but nothing had felt like this. "I don't know if I can do this right," he admitted. His voice was small, almost swallowed by the hum of the station. "You can," she said, placing a hand over his. Her touch was cool, almost electric, and full of unspoken trust. "Because you are human, because your species survives where others fail. That is why you are here. That is why this works." The chamber sealed around them. Lights dimmed and a gentle vibration filled the room. Time seemed to stretch. Elias felt the weight of the stars pressing in, silent witnesses to what was happening. He thought about the life that would soon exist because of him. A life that would carry pieces of two worlds, bonded by hope and trust. By morning, nothing would ever be the same. He could not imagine it yet, but something inside him had already shifted. Elias exhaled slowly. The choice had been made. The night had begun. And the universe was about to remind him that miracles, no matter how impossible, sometimes happen when least expected. The alarms blared through the station, shaking Elias awake. Red lights pulsed along the walls, and the hum of machinery had changed. It was higher, chaotic, alive. He rushed to the chamber where the process had begun, fear and anticipation twisting in his chest. Inside, the energy field shimmered violently. The chamber's systems were overloaded. He had never seen anything like this. The lights flickered and cast strange shadows across Salith's worried face. She clutched the edges of the console, her blue skin dim in places, patterns flickering like dying stars. "It's happening too fast," she said, voice trembling. "The growth is accelerating." Elias swallowed hard. This was supposed to be controlled, calculated, but the universe had other plans. The alarm screamed as the chamber seemed to pulse with life. It wasn't breaking, it was evolving. Then he saw it. The infant emerged. Not slowly, not quietly, but in a sudden surge of energy and movement. Its skin glimmered faintly, like a new dawn in the darkness. Its eyes opened immediately, revealing tiny orbs that reflected the stars outside the station. It looked at Elias, and for the first time he felt the impossible. The child reached for him instinctively. Elias caught it, his hands shaking. It was warm, alive, and real, though it should not have existed yet. The monitors screamed biological impossibilities. Growth rates were off the charts. Energy consumption spiked. The station's AI issued warnings that the child ignored or perhaps defied. Salith collapsed against the console, tears running down her cheeks. It survived," she whispered. "It's perfect." Elias held the child close, feeling a bond he could not explain. It was not genetic, not designed. It was emotional, primal, a connection that had nothing to do with reason. The child cooed softly, and the pulsing alarms quieted as if respecting its presence. The AI spoke flatly, almost reluctantly. Primary parental imprint detected, human male, emotional synchronization confirmed. Elias stared at the tiny being in his arms. His life, his solitude, his walls, they all crumbled. He could not move. He could not speak. Only this small miracle existed, bridging impossible boundaries. Salith reached out, trembling, and touched his shoulder. "He or she is bonded to you," she said softly. "The fusion, it needed your resilience, your adaptability. You are the anchor." Elias whispered, voice hoarse, I didn't agree to this." Her gaze met his. "You did not need to. Nature, humanity, something beyond either of us chose." Outside the chamber, the station settled into an eerie quiet. The universe itself seemed to pause, watching the birth of something no one expected. Elias held the child tightly, feeling its heartbeat against his own. He realized the weight of what had happened. This small life carried the future of a species, and yet it depended entirely on him. Every instinct he had built over decades, caution, isolation, survival, was irrelevant now. His purpose had shifted in an instant. The child cooed again, reaching for him, grasping his finger with tiny strength. And in that moment, Elias understood something he had long avoided. Responsibility could be terrifying, yes, but it could also make one feel alive in ways nothing else could. He looked at Salith, whose glowing patterns now shone steadily, and nodded. "We protect it," he said, "no matter what." She smiled faintly, hope mixing with exhaustion. "Then we begin." And as the first light of a distant star streaked across the station's observation window, Elias realized that life, fragile, impossible, and miraculous, had chosen him. Nothing would ever be the same again. Within hours, the silence of Elias' station shattered. Sensors blinked with alerts he could barely comprehend. Multiple Virelian warships had entered the system. Their formations were precise, cold, and unyielding. They did not communicate, they commanded. The council had arrived. Elias held the child close, feeling its warmth and the faint pulsing glow beneath its skin. It was small, but already alive with something the galaxy had never seen before. Every instinct in him screamed to run, hide, protect. Yet he also knew they would not leave quietly. Salith stepped forward, her hands raised. "They will demand the child," she said softly, voice heavy with dread. "If you refuse, they will." She didn't finish. The implication was enough. The council erased failures. Entire existences could vanish without record, memory, or trace. The communications panel flickered on, and the harsh, mechanical voice of the council filled the chamber. "Return the child," it said. "Failure is unacceptable. You have been designated as an anomaly. Custody is mandated." Elias stared at the screen, trying to find some loophole, some way to reason with beings who treated life as a code problem. But he knew logic would not work here. Their idea of morality was obedience. His idea of morality was the child in his arms, breathing, alive, and innocent. Salith was trembling, her patterns dimmed and brightened like a stormy sky. "Do not let them take it," she whispered. "You are the only one who can." Elias realized then what being human truly meant. Humans were not the strongest. They were not the fastest, the smartest, or the most powerful. But humans fought for connection, for love, for choices, even impossible ones. And right now, there was only one choice that mattered: protect the child. He moved swiftly, gathering the tools and setting the station's emergency protocols. He opened the cargo bay and activated the ship's engines manually. Every second mattered. The council would not wait. They would demand obedience. The child stirred in his arms, eyes opening wide as the vibrations shook the station. Elias felt a surge of determination. He whispered softly, "I will not let them take you." The words were as much for himself as for the tiny being in his grasp. Salith hesitated, then nodded. "I cannot leave with you. I will slow them down. You must escape." Her courage, fragile as it was, gave him strength. The council ships fired, cutting into the station's outer hull. Metal screamed. Sparks flew. The alarms blared like angry gods. Elias pressed forward, ignoring the pain in his muscles and the fear gnawing at his heart. He navigated through the chaos, piloting the craft as if instinct alone guided his hands. He breached the blockade. Lasers tore past him, ripping chunks of empty space. The child held on, small fingers gripping his suit. And then, with a final surge, they broke free into uncharted regions, where sensors could not track them and the council could not follow. Salith's voice came over the comm, faint and trembling. "Go, do not stop." Elias looked down at the child, glowing softly, breathing steadily despite the chaos. For the first time, he understood what it meant to carry life in his hands. Not just life, but hope. Not just responsibility, but defiance. The galaxy could try to erase them. It could threaten, demand, and punish. But humanity, the stubborn, emotional, unpredictable heart of humanity, would not be dictated by fear alone. And as the stars streaked past the viewport, Elias whispered, "No one will take you, not ever." The child looked up, cooing softly, unaware of the wars it had already survived, the empires it had already defied. Elias realized that this was only the beginning, and the weight of the universe rested on choices he had never thought he would have to make. Yet in that moment he felt alive. The first weeks alone in uncharted space were quiet, but not peaceful. Elias adjusted to life with the child, whose small body seemed to pulse with energy, absorbing light, air, and even sound in ways that startled him. The child's growth was faster than he expected. Each day brought new abilities, new expressions, and small gestures that hinted at understanding far beyond what a normal human infant could do. Elias learned quickly. He taught the child to speak, starting with simple words: star, light, safe. The child repeated them with a clear, musical tone that made Elias smile and ache at the same time. Each laugh, each discovery reminded him that life, fragile, impossible, miraculous, was worth the danger they faced. But the council had not forgotten. Scouts tracked their path through distant systems, monitoring them without mercy. Elias altered course constantly, relying on instincts he had honed during decades of solitude. He patched engines, recalibrated shields, and calculated jumps manually. The child watched, absorbing everything, curious but unafraid. One night, after a long day of repairs and evasions, the child asked softly, "Why do you stay?" Elias stared at the stars outside, heart heavy with memories of loss and loneliness. He had survived countless crises, but this question struck deeper than any danger. "Because you need me," he said honestly, voice trembling. "Because no one else will." The child reached out, small hands brushing Elias' cheek. The warmth was human, yet more, something alive and unbound. Elias felt a surge of determination, a clarity he had never known. He would not abandon this life. Not for fear, not for safety, not for anything. Days passed. The child's abilities became more evident. Tiny displays of strength and awareness frightened Elias at first. When small asteroids collided with the ship's outer hull, the child moved to shield it with an energy ripple that left scorch marks along the walls. Elias realized the council's warnings had underestimated them. This being, human and Virelian, was beyond their calculations. Still, danger was never far away. One evening, bounty hunters appeared, mercenaries from a distant system, hired by the council. Their weapons cut through space like knives. Elias prepared to fight, gripping the child tightly. His mind raced. He could not let them take the child. The attackers' systems went haywire. Weapons failed. Shields collapsed. Every technological advantage they had seemed to falter under a force Elias did not yet understand. The child had acted instinctively, protective, though unaware of the power it wielded. Elias' heart pounded. Fear and awe intertwined in every breath he took. After the encounter, Elias held the child close. The being nestled against him, calm now, as if aware that he had risked everything to protect it. Elias whispered, "You don't know what you just did, but I will keep you safe, always." Salith, tracking their progress through distant channels, contacted them once more. Her voice was full of relief. "The Council is worried. They are learning too late that you cannot be forced. You've done what no one else could. You've protected what must survive." Elias realized then the truth. This child had not only changed his life, it had changed the galaxy's perception of humans. Not through strength or conquest, but through courage, compassion, and love. That was the true power of humanity, the unpredictable, unmeasurable force of choice. As they drifted through a starfield, Elias watched the child reach for a flickering light outside the viewport, eyes wide with wonder. He felt a quiet pride and a deep, unshakable connection. The universe could hunt them, challenge them, even threaten them, but nothing could break the bond forming between a human father and a child that should not exist. In that moment, Elias knew one thing with certainty. No matter what came next, he would not let fear dictate his path. He would teach, protect, and love. That was the true fight, and one he intended to win. The stars stretched endlessly before them, and for the first time in decades, Elias smiled freely. Word of Elias and the child spread faster than he expected. The Council's attempts to track them were clumsy, leaving traces for others to see. Traders, smugglers, and even distant colonies began speaking in hushed tones about the human father who had defied empires. He was not seen as a threat in the traditional sense. He was something stranger, something unpredictable. A human protecting a being no one else could understand. The child had grown, not just in size but in awareness. Its eyes reflected distant stars, curiosity sharp and unending. It learned quickly, not only human language but the subtle patterns of space travel, navigation, and diplomacy. Elias taught it stories of humanity, of Earth, of the quiet strength that let his species survive when all odds were against them. The child listened with gravity, its small hands clasped around his as if absorbing not only words but purpose. Salith arrived again, slipping through hidden channels to see them. She looked at the child laughing for the first time, a sound like music in a still station. She bowed to Elias not in submission but in respect. "You gave them life," she said, "and more than life, you gave them hope, courage, and choice. The Council cannot erase that." Elias felt the weight of her words. He had never sought recognition. He had lived quietly fixing ships and surviving alone. But now the galaxy had eyes on him. Species that once ignored humans began watching carefully. Not because humans were strong, they weren't, but because of the choices Elias had made. He had defied empires not through weapons, but through determination, care, and the stubborn refusal to surrender. Diplomats came quietly at first. Traders offered alliances quietly as if testing the waters. And through all of it, Elias focused on teaching the child what it meant to be human, not just to survive but to act, to choose, to protect. The child's laughter became a symbol, a reminder that life, fragile, fleeting, miraculous, was worth more than obedience or fear. The Council returned, but not with weapons this time. They came seeking guidance, understanding, negotiation. They wanted to know how a single human had accomplished what entire fleets had failed to achieve. Elias did not speak immediately. He studied their representatives with quiet patience. Humans had always been underestimated, and now he understood why. They acted where others hesitated, they loved where others feared, and they protected where others calculated. The child, sitting on his shoulder, reached out a tiny hand toward the Council. There was no threat in its gesture, only trust and curiosity. The council paused. They had expected defiance, fury, or weakness, but this was neither. This was humanity in its purest form, simple, unyielding, unafraid of impossible odds. Elias finally spoke. "You want to understand, watch us. Watch how we protect life, how we act even when the outcome is uncertain. Do not try to control it. Do not try to erase it. Simply learn." The council left unsettled, carrying with them the knowledge that humans were unpredictable forces of change. They would remember Elias, and they would remember the child, not because of power, but because of courage, love, and the choices that defined them. That night alone with the child, Elias whispered, "The galaxy will fear us or respect us or both, but none of that matters. We are alive, and that is enough." The child cooed, small fingers brushing his cheek, a reminder that despite everything, the universe had given them a chance. A chance to show that humanity, simple, emotional, resilient, was capable of more than war, more than conquest, more than logic alone. Elias smiled, a quiet, proud smile. For the first time he felt not just alive but essential, not a lone human lost in space, but a father, the anchor of a future that no one else could predict. Stars outside the viewport shimmered like witnesses, and in their light, Elias realized that the greatest power in the galaxy was not strength, but choice, and he had made the one choice that mattered most, years past. The child, now older, moved with a grace that startled every species that glimpsed it. Not fully human, not fully virulent, yet a living bridge between worlds, a testament to what choice and courage could create. Elias had aged too, the lines on his face deeper, his hair streaked with silver. Yet he carried himself with the quiet pride of a man who had defied the galaxy and survived. The council, once cold and unyielding, had learned caution. They sent envoys not to command but to witness. The universe had changed because of a human who refused to abandon life. And now the child would speak. Elias watched as the child stepped forward before a gathering of multiple species. The room was silent, tension thick, eyes wide. Many had come expecting weapons, dominance, or rebellion. Instead, they found a being who radiated understanding, empathy, and intelligence far beyond its years. The child's voice, clear and resonant, filled the chamber. "My father chose love when fear was easier. That is why I exist." A ripple moved through the assembly. Not fear, not anger, but awe. They realized in that moment that the galaxy had underestimated humans for centuries, not because of power, but because of heart. The capacity to act when others would calculate, to protect when others would obey. Elias stood behind the child, silent. He remembered the quiet docking bay where it all began, the first touch, the whispered question that had started this impossible journey. He had never sought recognition, only survival, only a chance to do what was right. Yet here, the universe acknowledged it, not with crowns or fleets but with understanding. The child continued, gesturing to Elias. "He taught me courage, patience, and the strength to protect life. Not through machines, not through war, but through choice. That is why humans matter." Salith, standing at the edge of the room, felt tears prick her eyes. She had seen empires rise and fall, but never had she witnessed something like this. A human teaching the galaxy the value of life through love and defiance. Elias finally spoke, his voice soft but steady. "The galaxy will remember battles, fleets, and conquests, but they will remember the human heart only if it is shown. I do not claim greatness. I only claim responsibility." The child reached for him, small hands brushing his cheek, eyes reflecting the stars they had traveled through. Elias knelt, embracing the life that had transformed him, that had reshaped entire systems. He realized that true power was not measured in fleets or weapons, but in courage, compassion, and choices made when the outcome was uncertain. Outside the council chamber, news traveled faster than light. Humans were no longer just survivors. They were teachers, guardians, and symbols of hope. Their actions had rewritten how the galaxy would remember them. The child turned, looking out at the gathered beings, and smiled. It was a simple smile, yet it carried centuries of potential and generations of future choices. In that moment, Elias understood fully. Life, no matter how fragile or improbable, was worth defending. Always. The council bowed subtly, acknowledging that the smallest beings and the humblest humans could leave marks no empire could erase. And Elias, standing quietly behind his child, felt the weight of his own choices lift. He had not saved the galaxy with strength, weapons, or strategy. He had saved it with the simple, human act of staying, protecting, and loving. As the stars outside shimmered in silent witness, Elias whispered, more to himself than anyone else, "This is what it means to be human." The child squeezed his hand, and in that quiet, powerful gesture, the galaxy finally understood. Humans were not just survivors, they were proof that hope could exist against impossible odds. Life had chosen him, and he had chosen life.